All right. Okay, so for those of you who are less familiar with our project, we work on access to justice in Libya, a collaboration between the Center for Law and Society Studies at the University of Benghazi in Libya and the Van Vollenhoven Institute for Law, Governance and Society at Leiden University here in the Netherlands. And that's where we are meeting here today. The Access to Justice in Libya project runs from 2021 to the end of next year. And the main objective is to ascertain whether and to what extent people have access to justice in Libya, and through identifying and reducing barriers, how this could be improved. Our project leader, Dr. Suleiman Ibrahim, is on both the Benghazi and Leiden side. On the Libyan side, we have a very inspiring range of academics, including Professor Zahi Moherbi, Professor Okuni Abuda, Professor Najib Al-Hassadi, who is with us today, Dr. Jazia Shaitir, Dr. Hala Al-Atrash, Dr. Tarek El-Gamli, Mr. Ali Abu Ras, and a range more of researchers who join us for different thematic phases. And on this side, we have project coordinator, Dr. Hajar Taha, senior advisor, Jan-Michiel Otto, Professor Jan-Michiel Otto, and myself. And the funding for the research is provided by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Netherlands. So for the website, the actual technical building of the website was done by Marcel Villerius of Leiden University. And we've had a lot of discussions here in Leiden with Jelle van de Kamp of the law faculty, and in Benghazi with various people who we will mention later. And we're very grateful to all of them. So for today, we have a very short program. First, Suleiman and I will share some of the main ideas for the website and invite you to consider contributing and sharing the website with others. Then we will ask Professor Adriaan Bettner, head of department here at the Van Vollenhoven Institute and a specialist on law and society and access to justice studies, with a particular focus on Indonesia, to offer his first responses. And then we will have a brief response as well by Mr. Bart Woelders of the Netherlands Ministry of Foreign Affairs at the Department of Stabilization and Humanitarian Aid, where he's also in charge of the Libya portfolio. But before that, let me first give the floor to Suleiman to share his main vision sort of with this website.
Thank you, Bruno. Good morning, everyone, here in Leiden and online. So why this website? What's the big idea behind it? As Bruno mentioned, we have been working like Benghazi and Leiden universities for a decade now on research projects on Libya, lawmaking, constitution making, national reconciliation, real property conflicts, and lately the access to justice. Throughout these projects, we have seen a problem of access to legal information and the effects of this problem on access to justice in the latest project. For example, legislation is not regularly published, and even in the official gazette, it's not published, even though, ironically enough, we have two official gazettes in Libya, thanks to the political divide, but still, the problem is there. When it is published, this legislation is not accessible either on paper or like on paper and online. There are indeed websites run by state institutions like the website of the House of Representatives, the Ministry of Justice, but these websites are not regularly updated. And it is not uncommon that these websites basically disappear. This was the case of, for example, the websites run by the previous legislative assemblies before 2011 and after 2011. The same is also true of the Supreme Court rulings. These rulings are really significant in Libya. By law, they are binding for all courts and entities in Libya. Still, they are not really accessible. The Supreme Court has its own website, but they do not publish everything. They select. And also their journal, for a while now, has stopped. In the journal, they publish the principles extracted by their technical office, but we haven't seen any new edition for a while now. There are indeed praiseworthy efforts made to make legislation and rulings available, for example, those by the Law Society of Libya and DCAF, Geneva Center for Security Sector Governance. We would like to add to these and build on them. So instead of publishing rulings that are already available, we try to publish, for example, collections of rulings. Recently, we published rulings related to whether the state is responsible for compensating victims of military operations. There were like contradictory rulings and by the Supreme Court itself, but then at the end, the Supreme Court, through its collective circuits, basically decided in one position. So we published these accompanied by a commentary by legal scholars in Libya. We think that's actually like building on the efforts that are already there and making it more accessible. Sometimes lack of access to legal information is not because the information is not there, but it is there through avenues that are not accessible to everyone, or written in a kind of like a legalistic language that's not accessible to everyone. So we know that many Libyan scholars publish on their Facebook pages, but only those who are like friends or follow those pages who can see them. And sometimes the posts are written in legalistic language, so not everyone can follow it. So we would like to make it accessible by republishing those pieces. And also we encourage the contributors to contribute like original pieces for our website and simplify as much as possible that legalistic language. So the vision for our website is basically, we hope it will become an indispensable and reliable aid for people interested in law and legal issues in Libya. And we feel that by foregrounding highly level research, important legal documents, and stimulating critical exchange, we can help Libyans and international audience learn more about law and society in Libya. Finally, I would like to thank our colleagues here at Leiden University, Yala and Marcel, for their help and support in designing and developing this website. I would like also to thank the sponsor, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for making the Access to Justice to Libya project and this website possible.
Thank you. So I would briefly like to highlight two sections that Suleiman already mentioned. For those of you who are online, which I guess is everyone by definition, maybe you can open the website in another tab. I can also share my screen if you prefer, but I'll also send in the chat the link so that you can see what I'm talking about. You will immediately notice on the website that there is an English and an Arabic functionality at the top right corner. And I, before anything else, should say that the Arabic side is a little bit more elaborate, and that is so by design. Most of the material will be available in Arabic, especially also the opinion pieces. What I will speak about now are the opinion and the legal documents part. So very briefly at the research part, we share our publications of both the ongoing and completed projects and whatever events and sort of community members we have. At the opinion page, basically, we have two plans. So Suleiman mentioned a lot and very lively debate is being held on law and society issues among Libyan academics and practitioners. The trouble is it's often on Facebook, so it's not accessible for the wider public always, rarely accessible in English, and at some point it may disappear. So our plan is to ask people who have written such interesting opinions if we can include them on our website and then translate some of those in English. So for instance, we have here, if you click on the opinion page, we have a little bit by Professor Zahi Moherbi, who is also present with us today, which he originally wrote in Arabic as an introduction to his book on the Adrian Pelt book, which he translated, and sort of the lessons Libya can learn from that today. And then we translated that together into English. Another thing we would like to publish on these opinion pages are things that have not been written yet, but things that we think should be written. So for instance, Suleiman mentioned these contradictory Supreme Court rulings. Of course, we could envision a legal scholar to reflect on those contradictory rulings. Another current development is the establishment of a constitutional court, about which there's much to say. So that could also be a subject for such an opinion piece. Please do let us know if you or somebody you know might be interested to contribute such an opinion, and we would love to be in touch with them. So the second section I would like to say something about is this legal document section. Suleiman already mentioned some of the efforts that have been made, as well as some of the shortcomings in our eyes. One thing that we have noticed is that some of our colleagues and team members in Libya have essentially assembled their own private legal libraries, often offline. And they are very impressive legal libraries, but again, they are not widely accessible. And let alone that anyone who doesn't read Arabic would be able to read anything of it. So the plan is to, in the first instance, to digitize some elements of such libraries, and second, perhaps to translate elements of those documents, at least so that people know, can read what sort of the big subjects are. And again, we have three main things in mind here. One is these contradictory rulings, which Suleiman also mentioned. So the idea is to include all the rulings and a sort of legal commentary to them, reflecting on these contradictions and possibly encouraging also the Supreme Court to address this problem, which they can do when the circuits convene and discuss the positions and which one ought to be followed. The second idea is to publish draft laws as well. So not just the final law, but also the previous drafts, so that you can follow its development. And the third idea is to share milestone or famous cases. So we could collect all different stages of one case, when it was at the primary court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, and then the different rulings. And there used to be efforts in the past in Libya to do that, but not so any longer. We've run into two important challenges. One is that there's this thing now called OCR, which is optical character recognition, I think. And it's not working so well in Arabic. So when you scan a document in English, often you can search it, which makes it much easier to research. We've experimented so far with Arabic OCR, and it's not proven entirely satisfactory. Should any of you have heard of a program that works really well, we would be keen to hear about it. And the second challenge is, of course, that some of our colleagues who have such private libraries are very, very busy, and we would like to offer them better support, like a student, to assist them in the digitization of these treasure troves. So I think that basically concludes our introductory words. Before we open for general questions and comments and ideas, we'd like to welcome two responses, first by Professor Adriaan Bettner, and then by Mr. Bart Wolders. So, Professor Bettner, can I give you the floor?
Yeah, you certainly can.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Bruno, Suleiman, Hardar, Jan-Michiel, who are all here. On behalf of the Van Vollenhoven Institute, I first want to express my gratitude to the whole project team, including all our Libyan friends, to take the initiative to actually establish a website, which is a major achievement, I think. And the VVI and Leiden University are very pleased to host this website, and indeed to ensure the continuity that we all expect it is going to offer, or we at least aspire to. I still remember that when we first talked about Libya at the Van Vollenhoven Institute, which was a long time ago, when Jan-Michiel was still the director, that we were really thinking, we don't know anything about Libya. So is this worth a try? Should we actually take on a project which we were asked to do? We are now 10 years, more than 10 years on, and I'm very happy that the decision at the time was taken that VVI was going to embark on this project, because it has produced wonderful scholarly work, practically relevant, and it has actually stimulated collaboration between Benghazi and Leiden, which would otherwise no way have emerged. And it also shows again that when I look at my own field, which is Indonesia, where we see that we have had such long ties, how much time it takes to actually to establish cooperation, and that we have succeeded to do that. That there is really, that is becoming ingrained in the institute, that there is this knowledge base now, and I see this website as a perfect crown on all that has been assembled already. And that takes me to my own experiences with Indonesia, where I remember that after the fall of Suharto in 1998, the whole communication within the legal sector had to start from scratch, basically. So exactly the same problems as were mentioned about the information about Libyan law were present in Indonesia at the time. And we see that similar initiatives were taken. For instance, the Hukum Online website really started to collect all these Supreme Court judgments, which were contradictory as well a lot of times. It started to actually stimulate scholars to provide comments, to provide annotations, and it has worked to a large extent. There is now much more communication, there is much more debate, there's much more clarity about legal positions, which means that the law has become more autonomous. And that, in the end, I think is a major goal also of the Libya project. I mean, you're now working on access to justice, but in the end, if the legal system is not autonomous to a degree and is not independent, it will not have the legitimacy it needs. And the only way to achieve this is indeed that it is legal in the sense that decisions are taken in a regular manner, that procedures are followed, and that indeed courts take into account their own judgments and lower courts take into account the judgments of the Supreme Court. Same about legislation, of course. If legislation is not known, if people have no access to legislation, that will make it very hard to actually have a legal system develop as a whole. So, given my experience in Indonesia, I think that there is a bright future possible. Whether it's going to happen, of course, depends on a lot of factors, but it's certainly possible. And I'm very happy that this step is being taken. And I'm particularly happy because I did not click on the link, but I just tried to search for the website, just as if I wanted to know something about Libyan law, and it emerged on my screen. So I was very happy. And actually, I thought, well, take a brief look, but I ended up reading a full article about underage marriage. And that immediately struck me as, wow, this is so interesting, because there are so many comparisons to be made with similar issues in other countries, and then underage marriage being one of the topics I have been engaged in studying in Indonesia. And it immediately raised all kinds of questions, and I felt the urge actually to write a short response, say, okay, this is interesting, have you thought about this particular issue? So it indeed invited to the debate and to the discussion that you're envisaging. I very much hope that it will also serve that need, or that possibility of comparison, of getting other scholars working on other countries involved. I think the format in which there is short information and you click on, you can get more information, is very helpful. I think if you immediately start with big articles or with the judgments on the first page, that people will be scared off and say, okay, this is really interesting, but not for me. But when you're drawn into it the way I was drawn into it, and it works the same way with other people, I think it will be a great resource. So from the VVI side, I think this is, as I said, I think it's a crown on the project, the Libya projects that have been conducted so far. I also think it's a crown on the collaboration between Leiden University and Benghazi and to our respective institutes. And I'm very grateful for you having taken so much time and effort to create this website. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for those warm words, Adriaan. Then I would briefly like to offer Mr. Bart Boulders, Senior Policy Officer at the Netherlands Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the floor for a short reaction as well.
Thank you, Bruno. Let me first check whether you can all hear me.
I think we can.
Splendid. Okay, thank you. Thank you for today's presentation, and of course, first and foremost, for the excellent website. Let me join Professor Bender in complimenting you for the accessibility of the website. So I did not use Google, but still, when you click the link and you look at the website, the layout is just beautiful, and indeed invites you to read and to click further on the website. I even spot some artwork on some of the pages. So that's great. So very briefly, the Netherlands is committed to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And for us, one of the core elements of the Sustainable Development Agenda is SDG 16.3, promoting the rule of law at the national and international levels, and ensuring equal access to justice for all. For us, access to justice is a crucial element in developing just and inclusive societies and institutions that address various forms of injustice and inequality. And we pay a specific attention to those first behind, including women and migrants and people from with a minority background. For Libya specifically, the Netherlands focuses currently on national reconciliation, which for us must include transitional justice and accountability for the most serious crimes, as well as addressing the lack of access to justice and legal empowerment. Those are core elements of the of our multi-annual strategy for the period 2020 to 2026. And of course, the Access to Justice in Libya research project that is conducted by the Van Vollenhoven Institute together with the center in Benghazi is key in this regards. With regards to the website, I particularly welcome that it includes information on all of your research since 2012. So, of course, the current Access to Justice project, but also, for example, the previous one on the rule of law in Libya, Libya's national reconciliation. And I also strongly welcome that it's available in English and Arabic. And if I'm correct from your previous email, the Arabic website is even more elaborate than the English version. So I think that's great, because I had a short look yesterday at the ministry's internal appraisal document, which summarizes the objective of this project as follows. It is to contribute to a solid, accessible, domestically owned knowledge base for people-centered interventions aimed at strengthening access to justice in Libya, and to disseminate such knowledge among stakeholders. Well, of course, the website is just that. It's a knowledge base. As we stated at the very beginning, as Professor Bender stated, it's very accessible, but also it's domestically owned. And with the elaborate Arabic version, it is easy to disseminate knowledge in this way among stakeholders. And just maybe a last point from the ministry's point of view. First, it's so important that your work remains accessible, also the earlier work. Because what we often see is that we fund an organization to conduct some work, we get a study, the study goes into the archive. And perhaps if you're lucky, somebody with good intentions or a particular keenness for a particular subject reads it a couple of years later. But in this way, you've ensured that all of your research is accessible to a broad audience for a long period of time. So again, my compliments, and I look forward to the rest of the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bart. Maybe briefly on that last point, Suleiman, I think that's been a key concern for us as well, like that even beyond this project, the website remains online and ideally alive as well. Do you want to add a few considerations on that or no?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think that's the idea. I mean, like to have the previous projects and have them there and add to them. And we hope like now it is financially possible to sponsor like people, to pay them to write, to fund. That's not an issue there. But we hope also even beyond the, I mean, like the end of the Access to Justice project, it will remain there. And it's not just an archive, but it will remain as a lively website. So that's the hope and that's the vision, actually.
Yeah, and we're exploring that as well with the people who made the website and with the hosting as well, like how that would work. So that's certainly the plan. I think now it is time for anyone else who might have a question, an idea, contribution, and anything. We would be very keen to hear your responses. Yeah. Also, if you think of something later, please feel free to email us at any point. Also, we would be very grateful if you could share the website with any other person who you think might be interested. We think in the first place, of course, of the Libyan audience and people working on Libya. But if, like Professor Bettner said, you think that this might be interesting for people working on other contexts, but on similar subjects, or if you know of examples like this Hukum Online, that might be of inspiration to us, please also let us know. We would be very grateful for any input you might have.
Excuse me, can you hear me?
Yes, Professor Najib.
Yes. Again, compliments to the efforts exerted on this site. I have just one comment. Under the icon of research, I found ongoing projects, completed projects, research output, and all of that is related to research. But our community and events, are those in the right place? I take that our community should subsume about us. And events should be a different category. So, and the other thing, in the map, what apps the map is the icon, the map is changing, right? It's not the same all the time. And the one with the flag, I take it to be the main one, okay? But I found the space devoted to the black is too much. I think space should be more space for green.
Okay, and that's at the homepage now.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are good points.
Yeah, I mean, like, thanks for the comments. I think it is an ambitious website. And one of the things that we discussed earlier on was basically for the legal community to Libya to be there, not just like our researchers. And so it's a kind of like who's who. So it took us a while, but then also based on a conversation with the designer, because that's another thing. It has taken us, I think, some time to launch the website. And Marcel and the others kept telling us it is work in progress. So just launch it and then you can develop it there. It doesn't have to be perfect before.
Yeah.
So now that's one of the things. I mean, the information is there, but then it will be separated under different headings. We also hope to have another section on issues. That's another one, different for opinions. The community will be larger. But thanks. I think we will take that into account. For sure.
Yeah, Marcel kept telling us, and Haja actually, it's not a book. The website's supposed to change as it's live, so it's a. But these are good points, and I think both of them we have to discuss with with Marcel as well. Are there other responses?
Can I still?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, and just one remark. I see that there are two Indonesian PhD students from the VVI present in the audience, and perhaps it doesn't need to be now, but I think as we have a large number of such PhD students at the VVI, I think it would be really great to ask them to take a look at the website and to think what they find of it. Because of their experience, because how they use similar websites in Indonesia. So I think that could be useful. It'd also be good advertisement.
Yeah. Other people who would like to. Oh, I see, by the way, that Jelle is here now. Jelle, thank you very much. We thanked you in the beginning. I'm not sure you were there to hear it, but and then I think Mr. Jürgen Schur raises his hand.
Yes, hi. Good morning,
Morning.
everyone, and thank you so much for having me and allowing me to participate at the almost literally last second. I came across your website on Twitter this morning, and for someone, so I should have said I work for Lawyers for Justice in Libya. It's an international NGO based in London, and we work on human rights and on issues around accountability and justice for victims in Libya. And so the website is super useful, especially its dual language function for those of us who don't speak Arabic. And I think it will be really helpful for us also to get a better sense of the functioning of the judiciary. And so a translation of the court judgments will be super useful, I think, for our work. I wanted to ask to what extent these opinion pieces that you mentioned are also capturing human rights issues. And for example, I mean, given the context, it might not always be, I don't know, in terms of safety and so on. But to what extent, for example, it could include analysis of legislation and decrees around civil society organizations and their work in Libya, or whether you would want to have a different focus in those opinion pieces. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you want to respond? Okay. Thank you very much for that question. So thank you also for the warm words. In terms of the question, I do think we're very open to capturing issues related to human rights and accountability. That's definitely a focus. I agree with you that the question will be who is willing to say what in response to particular events and in response to particular actors. But we leave that also up to the contributing authors. So if you know of people, perhaps colleagues of yours or people that you work with in Libya that might be interested to contribute such an opinion, we would very much welcome that. Also, sometimes it's a bit easier for somebody perhaps like yourself, who is not Libyan, to say particular things, maybe in partnership with your colleagues. So that is also an option. You might have seen the opinion piece by Marika Wierda, who is also not Libyan, of course, but a long-time a friend of Libya and expert. So that is also an option. But yeah, let's be in touch. And we can also discuss it on a case-by-case basis. And I think definitely security and safety should be a big focus in what we publish and how. Are there other questions, responses, comments? Oh. You still want to say something? I know. Ah, wait, we have a hand by Vera.
Yes, thank you, Bruno. I see that the website is very useful for the community. I mean, Libya and other citizens from other countries, and also the academics. And this collaboration is really inspired us, especially for students from Indonesia, to build an information system on access to justice, especially at this time when our government's agenda is trying to forget its main task. That's my comment.
من عزايد بن وارق نجيبهم من عند البيضة ونعطيك 200 يطلب.
Sorry, that was, I think, Professor Najib was on the phone. Sorry, Vera.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all. Yeah. That's my comments because, yeah, it's really inspired us, especially.
Thank you. And Professor Zahi Moherbi, would you have I think you have your hand raised as well.
Yes. Good morning to everybody. I just have even what was reassured with what Suleiman said about the continuation of the website after the end of the current project. But still I have concern about that because of the problem of funding. And I feel they need to have concrete steps that assure the continuation of the website, because it is a very important window that the outside world will see what's going on in Libya. The other thing is in response to the Mr. Shore about are the concern of human rights and the role of civil society or other themes and issues, are they or will be incorporated in pieces in this website? I would assure him that all our projects, even the one about the role of the law in the national reconciliation and access to justice, and the one before about الملكية العقارية, ownership of properties. In all of these, the issues of human rights, the issues of the role of different groups and organizations in Libya are there and very present. We discussed all these issues, frankly, and as Bruno said, I do feel that the website will welcome any kind of studies related to this issue, because it is one of our main concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Suleiman, do you want to still add on the first continuity point?
Yeah, just to mention that this has been a concern from the very beginning, and we have had this conversation with the university, Yalada, myself, and the other colleagues at Leiden University. So we are all in agreement that it should continue, and it shouldn't be very hard. We even inquired; it's not a huge amount of money to pay, like to maintain the website. Like I'm talking about the fees here. So we have this conversation. We are still it's still to be continued, but it is there. So that's our aim to keep the website, especially that we mentioned the problem of disappearing. I mean there, so we will not have the same fate. So it is there, and we are working hard to address it.
I think there was another raised hand by Faiz Rahman, but the hand has been unraised. Would you still like to? Yeah.
Okay. May I say something?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I apologize because I have to move from the PhD room to the Zoom meeting room.
Yeah. No worries.
because there are people there. So yeah, thank you, Bruno, Sulaiman, and then I saw Pak Adrian and Pak Otto. First of all, I would like to congratulate all of you for this project. I think this the website actually is very useful, and I actually searched on the Google, and it was like pop out in the first page, and like very easy to kind of search the information. Yeah, I think the website is very useful, yeah, for people around the world to access information about the development of law and society in the Libyan, and then access information about legal documents. I saw uh, part of section legal document. We can access the English version of the document. So if you want to learn about Libyan law, I think it's very useful for people around the world. And one thing that I want to note is like I actually like the kind of simplicity of the website, because it's very easy to navigate information in the website. And I think Pak Adrian also mentioned about hukum online in Indonesia. Yeah. So I think that one is, we can say that one of the best practice in Indonesia to make a kind of legal repository. So I think you can have a look at that, hukumonline.com, because you can like find every law in Indonesia, even the English version. They kind of translate the not all, but many legal documents, especially laws and regulation. So I think yeah, you can kind of have a look at the website Hukum Online to kind of in the future, if you want to develop the website to kind of have more information, like I think I heard about the opinions and then research, etc. So I think Hukum Online also, yeah, in Indonesia, it's one of the best practice in developing a legal repository website. Even now they are using kind of AI to analyze legal documents, because they actually have so much information about laws and regulations in Indonesia, and they can examine the document using AI. So yeah, it's for the future. But again, congratulations for Bruno, Sulaiman, and all the team for this project, and I hope it can continue the continuity. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your input. Perhaps can I ask Professor Otto for a response as well before we round up, or do you satisfied?
I'm happy and satisfied.
Introduce yourself.
When our collaboration began, we were trying to produce articles and books, just paperwork, but with time passing, gradually we're moving into the internet era, and here it is, the website. Bart Wolders of the ministry, I think, read the objective of our project, and the objectives are manifold, and it's a huge project proposal with lots of research and meetings and workshops. I'm even not sure whether the website is there as a goal. It is perhaps one of the activities which actually was developed as has become a habit in our collaboration between Leiden and Benghazi, which is an extra in a way. And this is something really wonderful. We have seen this in previous projects as well. We are trying to carry out the objectives of a project, but also in Benghazi, our colleagues are organizing extra conferences. There are scholars invited to publish papers which were not part of the original proposal. So in that sense, our collaboration is a living one. It is changing. It adds elements like this website, which I think is really wonderful and needed. At the same time, I had the same concerns raised by Professor Zahi, because we have a lot of work on research to do, and And this is a big undertaking, actually. And listening to all of your comments, I think you already have started to think, but we need also a new generation of young Libyan scholars supervised by our senior researchers. When Suleiman and I began, to some extent, Suleiman was a young or starting mid-career researcher, but as time passes, he's senior. And as you've learned, there's a lot of translation work, legal translation, legal terminology from English to Arabic, from Arabic to English. And Suleiman is rightly a perfectionist, but it's of course impossible if all the work continues to concentrate in one person. So I really hope that we'll find ways to have young Libyan scholars like Hukum Online, where there are more than a few people working there actually, in a very interesting kind of mix between law, social science, journalism. It's a very inspiring example. And so I hope that this website will attract young scholars to not only contribute, but also help manage this wonderful website. And again, my compliments to Suleiman, Bruno, Hajar, Jelle, and Marcel, all of those who made this wonderful project possible. Thank you, Bruno.
Can I ask you to mute? Thank you. So I think with that, Vera, I'm afraid we are out of time. So we said 45 minutes and we don't want to take more time, but maybe you can just stay around a little bit longer. But for everyone else, thank you very much for being with us. If you have to go, feel free to do so. We'd love to stay in touch. Any ideas that come along after you leave the meeting, let us know. Any people that you think might be interested, please let them know that this website exists. And yeah, let this be the beginning and not the end. All right, thank you very much. Vera, are you still there? Yes, you are.
Yes, I am.
You still had your hand raised, no?
Yeah. Okay. Can I just add a little bit regarding the
I think you are
sustainability
muted,
of
or at
this
least we don't
website?
hear you.
Yeah. Now you can hear me. Can you hear me? No. Bruno, can you hear me? Bruno.
We can hear you.
No, you can.
We
Can
don't
you-
hear
Yes,
you.
yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you.
It's a really good website.
Thank you. So Vera, Dr. Amin, you're also online.
Yes, I am online.
Don't
Can
see
you
or
hear
hear
me,
you,
Bruno?
but know that you are with us.
Yeah, I'm here. So if you can hear me.
Oh yeah, let me stop the recording.